Well, if there's one thing we know, it's that the media loves covering itself. But boy, there's something going on in the media right now. And I don't know if this is Cat Williams going on Club Shay Shay and just declaring war on anyone who he feels ever slighted him or wronged him. But what we have going on between Stephen A. Smith and Jason Whitlock is way personal. And this is more than just you said you don't like my memoir going on here. Stephen A. Smith is like an awful lot of people who have gotten close to Jason Whitlock and decided this guy is a bad agent. This guy is someone who will stab you in the back for his own good and is distrustful. Now, personally, I think Jason Whitlock's a really good writer. I think he is off topic on an awful lot of the things that he writes about and cares about things that I don't know why he cares about them so much. I also think that he is absolutely, catering to a conservative audience for his own firebrand because his brand has flamed out just about everywhere else he's ever put it. But there is clearly something that has gone on with Jason Whitlock and people that he has worked with in the past. I was working with Jason Whitlock many, many moons ago, ESPN radio shift where he was co-hosting an overnight show. I was anchoring that overnight show, hosting SportsCenter every 20 minutes on ESPN radio when that used to be a part of radio. And I got to tell you, I left with no negative or positive impression about Jason Whitlock. We exchanged pleasantries as I came in and out of the studio. No problems at all. I always thought that he was a really good writer for the Kansas City Star when he and Greg Doyle were there. And again, he is a talented writer. But sometimes he has really rubbed people the wrong way. And all I can tell you is that one of the single most credible NBA journalists I have ever met, ever known, ever befriended, when I was asking him about a series of questions, kind of that we were going to get into before we went on the air together one day, I couldn't believe it when I said, and Jason Whitlock said, and he was like, don't ever bring up that mother effer's name around me. I don't want to hear about him. That man is no friend to anybody in this. And I was like, whoa, I had no idea. Now, an awful lot of the animus seems to go back to when Jason Whitlock was the, but for a moment, temporary editor of The Undefeated, which was a very African-American leaning ESPN media effort that has since become Anscape. And it just seems like anyone that Whitlock approached or worked with certainly isn't coming to pick him up as Stephen A. Smith is throwing serious verbal blows at him. I mean, Stephen A. Smith did a 40-minute takedown of Jason Whitlock where he calls him, just every name in the book, basically, for 30 minutes. 30 minutes. Calls him a piece of shit human, not a piece of shit journalist, piece of shit writer, piece of shit because he came at me, but just going after the man's soul. It's something else. I had Ethan Sherwood Strauss on the channel, and we talked about what he thought was going on here. It is personal vendetta grudge week in the media. I want to begin with Stephen A. Smith and Jason Whitlock, two former colleagues of sort of yours, kind of mine, tangentially anyways, at some points in time and throughout my career. That didn't just drift into the lane of personal. That started in the lane of personal, exclusively ran in the lane of personal, and broke the tape of the finish line. Very fucking personal. Stephen A. Smith not happy with Jason Whitlock criticizing his memoir, and he went straight to DEFCON 1. He didn't approach the battlefield. He nuked it.
Yeah, he also did a preview for it. And God, there's a lot going on there. I don't want to say I'm not an expert on Stephen A. Smith's memoir or B, even what Jason Whitlock was saying about it. I find it interesting. I can tell from afar, though, that it's this weird situation where I feel like Nobody cares about that memoir more than obviously Stephen A. and also Jason Whitlock, and everybody else is just kind of watching the spectacle. Because if the allegation is that Stephen A. fabricated things in his memoir, which I think is called Straight Talker or Straight Shooter, I should say. I mean, that's kind of funny if that's true, but I also don't think that's that central to why people watch Stephen A. Smith. It's not like when I'm watching Stephen A. Smith on ESPN, I'm going, God, if this guy has, made up anything about his past, I no longer am interested in what he's saying and how he's doing it. If he's puffing up his history of being a high school basketball player, then I can't believe in him because he wasn't good enough to play the game.
Right,
So
I
I'm not
file it
going to
under
listen to him.
fishtails. You know, of
Yeah.
course, you caught the biggest bass that day. I don't care.
Yeah, it's Al Bundy talking about his old high school exploits. And I don't know if I care that much. I know Jason Whitlock has a different perspective on why it matters and why it's more central to the whole Stephen A thing. But it always devolves, as all these things do, more into social groups. And if you hate Whitlock for his politics or you don't like him for other reasons, then you enjoy that Stephen A is really giving it to him. And if you like Whitlock, then you're fixating on Stephen A doing more of the insulting Whitlock than addressing the charges directly. And I apologize if he did a good job addressing it directly. It's just that I think he talked for an hour and there was just a lot there. And I mean, look, there's only so much I can catch up with. I believe Aaron Rodgers just went back on the Pat McAfee show. There's only so much of this content I can consume as the chaos is all happening, as actual sports stories are occurring.
You can spend an awful lot of time watching sports journalists debate each other, go to war against each other, and never see anything quite like this. This is out of the ordinary, and clearly this goes well beyond professional disagreements. This is some real personal stuff, and what a front row seat we've all been given to a little war between Jason Whitlock and Stephen A. Smith. I'm glad to not be caught in the crossfire between those two guys, and I'm sure you are too. Wow.